Welcome to the SowGrow Marketing Council podcast. The SowGrow Marketing Council is a membership organization comprised of growing marketers who want to stay ahead of developments in multiple areas of marketing. This podcast features recordings of SowGrow Marketing Council meetings. Tune in to hear expert marketers share tips and discuss the latest strategies and tools in marketing. To join the next meeting and be part of the discussion yourself, visit SowGrowPR.com. That's SowGrowPR.com and click on the Marketing Council tab. Let's get growing. Welcome to the SowGrow Marketing Council. I'm so excited today to hear from a group of expert marketers. We are going to hear tips from lots of different marketing industries today and have a wonderful discussion. And we are going to have each person introduce themselves and then share their company and their area of expertise and then share their tip. And as many of you know, this is a participatory discussion. So afterwards, we'll have about 1 to 2 minutes for a discussion. So feel free to jump in and ask questions or comments or add something from your particular industry. And when you guys are chatting, like I said, go ahead and put your name and information in the chat so that way you guys can network with each other as well. And then if you would like to present at a future meeting, you guys can go to SowGrowPR.com/submit, and I'll put that in the chat. And that way you guys can submit a tip for a future meeting as well. And then we will let you know if your tip has been chosen, and then you can present. So this group has been going for years and years. And the reason that we started is because people kept asking me if I could recommend other marketers. And I really am careful about who I recommend. And so this was an opportunity to just meet with marketers and get to know them. So if somebody said, hey, Stephanie, I need help with websites or I need help with SEO, I could say, oh, I know the perfect person for that. And so it really helps me to get to know other companies to be able to just use them and send business to them. And then the other purpose is that we all swim in our little lane of marketing. So we're all from different areas of marketing. And sometimes it's so easy to get into our lane of marketing and not really get to know what's going on in other areas of marketing. So my favorite thing about this group is that everybody brings their tips from their particular marketing discipline. And then we get to keep up to speed on multiple different areas of marketing without having to do all that research ourselves. So it's lovely. And today we're going to focus more on metrics. That was something that came out of a conversation that we had during the last meeting, where people wanted to just see what other people were measuring in their particular marketing discipline. So some of the tips will be on metrics, some of them might not, but that was something that we wanted to focus on today, talking about, what are you measuring in your particular area of marketing? And it could be, some people are from corporations and they're marketers that work for corporations, and some people are agency owners, so they may be talking about the metrics that they measure for their clients. So that'll be very interesting today. And then do not forget to check out our podcast. Our meetings are recorded and we have them in a podcast and also YouTube channel. So I put a link in the chat for that as well. So would love for you guys to go and subscribe to that and share it and just, make sure that you guys pass that along. We would love for you guys to share that with all your marketing friends, and then also invite your other marketing colleagues to join as well. We love to have new people join, and the more marketing brains we have, the more we get to learn. So feel free to send an invite to your friend and then sign up for the next meeting. It is going to be April 15th. And I've also got a calendar link. So if you guys want to go ahead and just put this on your calendar, that way it shows up every month. We meet the third Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m. Eastern. And then you can also go ahead and sign up for the next one in April. So we are going to get started today, and we are going to hear first from Justin. So Justin, would you like to kick us off and just say your name, your company, and your area of expertise, and then we look forward to hearing your tip.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me on. My name is Justin Rubner, and I'm in marketing leadership, and I run a marketing team for a division of CoStar Group, a large provider of real estate analytics and information. I'm going to be talking about metrics today. I'm not going to be zeroing in on one, but I'm going to share my screen here. Hopefully we'll be sharing my screen. Well, I guess I won't be sharing my screen.
Is it
I'll
an
just
is it an issue on our end? I've got multiple participants can share.
give me 1 second. If this doesn't work, I'll just talk through it.
No worries. I had that too. So I did the same thing where I couldn't see my screen. And there's a setting in Zoom where if you say like don't have access to this, then it will cut off access to those. So
We
I don't
could.
know if that's the thing, but I found that out and had to.
Why don't we go to someone else while I figure out the technology side
Yeah,
of this?
awesome.
And
Yep. No worries. That'll be great. You can certainly jump in. All right. So next on my list, Cordelia, would you like to jump in and introduce yourself and share your tip?
Sure. So my name is Cordelia Blake, and I am the Chief Marketing Officer and a partner at High Score Strategies Business Valuation. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that a lot of like professional services firms tend to want to focus on the company metrics, like especially when it comes to social and things like that. But usually what actually moves the needle on things like sales is like the lead influencer sales, whatever you want to call them, the people that are out there, the front facing of the company, their metrics. So I have yet to find an automated solution to do this. So I have a very detailed spreadsheet that I go through every week, and we're a smaller company. So right now there's only two of us that are quote unquote like leaders in the company. But as we grow, we check all of our LinkedIn posts, how many impressions, how many connections we have, how many followers, profile views, search appearances for both of us. We have our page information. We run a couple of volunteer community efforts. We track all that. We track our YouTube stats every week. And you have to do it every week because you don't have to, but I find you have to do it mostly weekly because you can then really drill down and tie it into your activities. You can start to see how it connects with your sales. We also track softer metrics. So we use the EOS traction operating system, I guess it's called, for a business. So we keep a scorecard every week, and we on our team meetings every week we go through, in addition to our numbers like revenue and stuff, we also talk about how many one-to-one meetings we had and how many one-to-many meetings that we had. So like this will go in my tracker as a one-to-many meeting, even though, just because it happened and I did it. We track our email list and how that's grown, and we have a couple different email lists that we manage, so all of those get tracked. And honestly, some of it's not an exact science in the sense that you can't always tie it directly into sales and revenue, but I do know that they influence it. And tracking it kind of does two things. One is obviously it gives us information and data, but also every week we have to tell each other how many networking meetings we have. We also track, I'm not very good at this, but our CEO tracks how many like acts of generosity. So it could be something where we do it's professional. It could be like with a volunteer commitment. We try to track that as well. I do that. I just don't like tracking it. So I'm very disobedient when it comes to that metric. Um, and we track how many thank yous we give. So we try to really capture the activities that we think lead to the sales and revenue. And in my experience in professional services firm in the past, they tend to only want to track revenue. And that's just kind of the result of all this other stuff. And when you see your revenue go down or up, it's almost like too late, right? So you really want to track, and we keep track of like our credit card balance, our incoming cash, how much accounts receivable. Like we drill down to that level of detail on our team meeting every single week, because it's just there's no BS. So I think if you use metrics in an organization in a way that helps people do better and encourages people to at every level be transparent. You can't just like track metrics of like the underlings and have the boss not track their metrics or crap like that, because then nobody tells the truth. So I think it's really important, but it's got to be part of a like an open communication that's focused on, making the company successful and the people in the company successful.
That's great, Cordelia. It sounds like you guys are just knocking it out of the park because you guys are able to identify trends and you're able to identify what's working. Because I think that's the biggest part is you want to know what is actually leading to those sales. So if you guys do more in-person meetings and your sales go up, you can go, that's where we need to invest our time. So
Honestly, in theory, that's true.
yeah,
Like that's kind of the theory. We've been in operation for about a year and a half, and it's still really hard to tie it all together. Like even with everything, it's really difficult to know how many in-person meetings lead to sales when you're in professional services, because it's still, and you don't really know, like when we get somebody says, oh, so and so referred you, they might have also seen 16 videos that we did, right? But they didn't say, oh, I saw your video and hired you. They said, oh, so and so referred you. So it's not like an exact science, but I do know that when you don't track metrics and you don't keep track of that stuff, then you literally have no clue what's happening at all in your business. So it's kind of like a weird thing where you have to track these specific things, but you can't always exactly tie it in. I don't know. Maybe I could probably take our year end numbers, like beginning of year and end of year, and plug it into Chat GPT somehow and have it do like an analysis of what worked, but I don't know how to do that yet. I'm working on Chat GPT right now. So
that would be so interesting. I would be, if you do that, let us know if that works. But yeah, I feel like that's a huge part. And I'm imagining this is probably going to come up a lot in our conversation, but just tracking the marketing efforts and the sales. Because, for us, we're the very, very, very top of the funnel with public relations. Where the money comes in the door is at the bottom of the funnel with the sales team. And so to tie back and say, hey, well, what we did at the absolute tippy, tippy top, like coming into the funnel, and then tracking that all the way through sales is, that's a long jump. So I'm sure that that's what, that's one reason why we wanted to have this conversation is how can we connect those dots in between where a lot of us are different stages of that funnel. I know, Sherry, you're way farther in the funnel than we are because you're talking to people and, getting those warm leads and that sort of thing with your telesales. So, we're kind of all partners on this funnel.
right.
Which I know funnels are kind of passe in the marketing world, but they're kind of not because I mean, it's, you know, good way to think of it. But I know there's other models out there other than funnels. But so yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm curious what everybody else is thinking about that as well in terms of connecting sales with marketing. So any thoughts or questions for Cordelia? Any comments?
I have a question. Just because from the perspective of content management and strategic content and whatnot, a lot of times we were in situations in the past where we had to connect funding, or sort of like funding was contingent upon getting certain types of data from leads, warm ones or not. And so I was curious, you mentioned the email list that you guys have. What type of email list is it? What is the intent behind the messaging in the emails? Are you following up with leads, or are you following up with prospective clients? Are you still in touch with clients, past clients? So, because I find that the intentionality behind what you use each tool for, an email list is one of many, right? It's not one, but just that was the one that kind of hit me because that's the one I've worked on. And even in that, it's hard, but the engagement is almost a bit easier to measure depending on the client, on the mailing client that you're using. And so giving people an opportunity to engage with the content within an email might help boost that connection to make it more apparent. I don't know if that applies in your field, of course, but I've found that that's helped us in the past. It's not always applicable, obviously, but I find that the intentionality of the messaging that you're using in email lists, and do you have different email lists based on, like how do you segment it and whatnot? That's a loaded question. Sorry, I think I asked you like 5 questions in one.
Oh, email lists are probably my least strong thing. But having said that, I used to be the executive director of a CEO like networking organization. And what I found with our CEOs was that they literally never read any emails that came from any email marketing software. So if it was like MailChimp or insert blank here, it wasn't anything against MailChimp. If they saw the look of an email marketing newsletter, they basically, it just literally never opened it.
Yep.
So I started using this program, which I love. I basically went old school to like my old school mail merge days, right? So I was like, there's got to be like a mail merge because I can't hand email like hundreds of members, but that's what they want at that level, at that CEO level,
Mm-hmm.
that what they want is a personal interaction. They want to feel like they're being personally connected with from the executive director, you know, whatever. So I started using this program called Mail Meteor, and it basically is like a mail merge with Google. It works with Google Office and Google Sheets. And so we don't really, so now fast forward to now being, you know, having our own company, a lot of our email communications that we send, even bulk-ish, are, it's all very personal. The business is very personal. It's a lot of high level people. And so we're kind of evaluating if we want to even, that's one of the things in this calendar year is, do we want to do a newsletter type thing just to keep our, you know, our name kind of fresh in people's minds. But in general, my emails tend to be a personal invitation to an event, whether it's an online event or an in-person event, or some other type of thing. And then I respond to every single email personally. So if somebody says, like, because we get a lot of like, hey, you know, I'll send a thing out and I'll say, you know, we're having this webinar on this topic. I hope you can attend. And, you know, people will be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm on vacation. And then I'm like, oh, I hope you have a great vacation. Like, I literally respond to every single email we get, because my experience with high level executives is that that's how you maintain those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
Mm-hmm.
personal. And so I know about segmenting and I know about email marketing program, and we're looking at implementing Kit this year. But all of that, none of that in my experience replaces the personal experience when you're dealing with executives.
So it's got to be very time consuming for you, though.
In a way, I mean, it's it's time consuming, but it's also what, like, I'm trying to think about how to say this without sounding snide, but it's the most important thing any business does, is how they
Mm-hmm.
relate their customers and their potential customers and the people that they have relationships with. So there's literally nothing else I do that matters more than those contacts. Years ago, I was a very low level person in a e-com business. And I did very well in that business because I used to answer phones and sell people stuff, and I was really good at that. And the problem was, when none of us were available to answer the phones, it went to an answering service. And so people would call with, and it was pretty expensive stuff we were selling. People would call with questions. They'd get some, you know, service provider who didn't know squat about our product, and we lost almost all those sales. So I made the suggestion at one of our team meetings with everybody at every level was at this meeting. It was a smallish company, but not tiny. I said, why don't we do this thing where if none of the people whose job it is to answer the phones are available, like we're all on other calls or at lunch or whatever, the phone service rolls through all the people that work here above us first before it goes to the answering service. Because I figure all those people they know our product, they know, you know, they know how to answer questions. They're, you know, right. Literally nobody in the company wanted to talk to the customers. And they were like, oh God, no, I don't want to, you know. And I was like, what? There's literally no job that you do in this company that is more important than understanding your customers. It's just not. And guess what happened to that business? So it's hard, but I think, and it is a luxury because we're a smaller company, but I mean, maintaining those relationships personally to me is the only way that you have a company. And I think even like big companies like Amazon and Microsoft, like their senior executives should sometimes get on calls with customers and just talk to them because you learn so much from your customers. And if you're not engaging with them, you just lose your business.
That's so true. So true. Very good. Thank you. I appreciate your tip, Cordelia. That was really helpful. It gives us lots to think about today. All right, Richard, would you like to introduce yourself and your area of expertise and your tip for today?
Yeah, certainly. My name is Richard Reimer. I'm an IP lawyer, or I like to tell people I'm a brand protection attorney. I have my own law firm, Initiating Protection Law Group, and I like to share my screen and talk today about the differences between copyright and trademark. And I realize a lot of people talking are marketers, and I'd like to talk to how marketers specifically encounter these two. So I have a very quick example I'd like to use as I go through these. So let's imagine that your brand new client comes to you. They have a brand new marketing course called Of Course You Can. You're hired as an independent contractor, an outside agency, to create a logo and also to produce some content for their website. So with that very simple example, how does copyright and trademark interact here? And what are the different things that these rights touch? I'm going to talk about what they protect, how the right is obtained, who owns the right, what enhancement you get through registration, and very quickly, duration and protection, what it covers exactly. So looking at that quick example, whoops, let me change it to share screen. Percent mode, okay. So copyright protects creative works. I like to think of the arts when I think of copyrights. It does not protect ideas, it does not protect brands, and it's automatically granted when created. So in our example, the copyright would protect the client's course materials, and it also include the web content that you created. And finally, it also includes the logo that you created. So both the client and the marketer in this example have created some copyrightable material. Trademark, on the other hand, does protect brands. So I like to think of it as a source identifier. If you've done something that's meant to help people understand exactly where this is coming from, so that's company names, logos, taglines, color schemes, those things are protected primarily by trademark. So in our example, the logo, which, yes, I said was a copyright, it's also a trademark in this case. It serves both purposes in this example. So that is something that the marketer created, but the client came to you with a name. Of course you can was my quick example, and that name is also a trademark. So those are the items that are sort of identified in our quick example. So again, a copyright is obtained simply by creating it. So if you write a story, typing on your typewriter, writing on your pencil, if you're taking a picture, actually snapping the photograph, that is how you obtain the copyright. Very simple to obtain a copyright. And so the copyright was obtained in the course material when you wrote it. It was the website content as well when you wrote it. Actually, the copyright, the course material, the client wrote it, so they acquired that at that time. And the logo once you completed the design. Trademark, meanwhile, is protected or created a different way. It's created once you actually start using your brand out there in commerce. So in this case, it's probably when the website got launched, or otherwise the content was out there for people to see. So it could have been a convention or something like that. But usually when you go to market is when a trademark right is obtained. Who owns it? Now, this is what really captures a lot of people and throws them off guard. And I'm not going to go too much into how do you correct it, but I will be touching on that in later months as we go through a few other IP things. So the client owns their course materials. They wrote it, they own it. The marketer owns the content. The marketer owns the copyright and the logo. And there's really nothing about the payment that's going to change that. There could be some written things that can change that, but if things just go naturally and it's not addressed, the marketer continues to hold the copyright in these things, and that's usually not what both parties intended. Again, topic for another conversation. It's a deep one all by itself. Trademark, who owns it? It's the business that's doing it. So the company owns the trademark rights and the logo when they go to market. However, the marketing agency owns the copyright and the logo. You can see right there, two different people owning a claim to the same thing in two different ways can cause some confusion. That's one way that often IP issues arise in sort of the marketing context. Registration, very quick. Copyright, you probably are not going to register a lot of your copyrights unless they're incredibly important. But if you are going to sue, you must have a registered copyright. Also, there's some benefits if people are infringing you. You can get some enhanced damages and get legal fees if you have a registration. Um, for trademark, the benefits of registration, again, you do not have to register your trademark to get trademark rights, but they enhance your rights when you do. It gives you federal rights as opposed to just a small area where you might be otherwise providing your good or service. And also it enhances sort of the ring of what's protected, what is confusingly similar. Last two items I'm going to hit really quickly. In fact, I put quick tagline sheets up here. Duration, a copyright lasts forever. The life of the individual who created it plus 70 years, or if a corporation creates it, 95 years. There's some other rules in there, but those cover the majority of it. So again, that course material created by your client is going to be around for at least 95 years. The right in that it goes on forever. Trademark can go on longer. It could be indefinite. However, it goes away as soon as you stop using it. So, it's up to the company. How long is it actually going to use a brand as to how long it maintains the right? Now, registrations have renewals that are required. It's sort of a separate thing altogether, but the actual right continues on as long as you're using it. And what type of protection you're getting? For copyright, I like to look at the first four letters there, copy. People can't copy your materials, but they also can't do something that's substantially similar. So they can't look at your stuff and say, hey, I'm going to change this X%. By the way, do the math. There's no such thing as doing math on writing or art or whatever. So if it's substantially similar and they're putting something else out there, reproducing or distributing something similar, there's an infringement. Trademark, it's likely a confusion as someone using a brand that the public might think, hey, that must be from this other company because it looks so similar. And so the logo, a similar logo or a similar name, of course you can, might be, of course we can, would be confusingly similar to those two. So blew through a lot of material very quickly. I hope this gave you a little bit of an understanding of what copyright trademark might touch in your realm as a marketer.
Thank you, Richard. I so appreciate your expertise. And I understand that you're not an official marketer, but everything you say touches everything that we do. And it's huge. And I would love it just if you would be willing to do one on work for hire versus because that's a whole different thing because I thought Georgia was like a work for hire state that if you were a marketing firm and you created it for something that was automatically the company's. So I would love it if you could, and I know it's gonna be hard to do that in 4 minutes, but if you could give us a taste of that at some point, I think that would be really helpful.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it'd be its own format. I'm happy to do it. I also, in the future, think would like to talk about independent creation, assignment of intellectual property, and also the benefit of having a distinctive brand. So very different things, but over the course of the year, something to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thoughts or questions for Richard? He's got such a great wealth of knowledge. I definitely snag his contact information because you need it for your company and also for your clients. It's huge because all the stuff that
No
we
questions, but thanks, Richard, for refreshing everyone's legal knowledge on all of these things. We all need to be reminded of this, and it's easy to forget and confuse the two for sure.
Thanks, Justin. Sherry, did I see your hand up?
Well,
Yeah. Go ahead, Jerry.
I'll be very quick. I saw someone using my tagline, and I hadn't done anything about trademarking, and I'm going, oh, isn't that interesting? And it was online. I think it's a company in Europe, blah blah blah. But I'll touch base with you, Richard. I'd love to.
Well, I'd like to have that coffee with you next month, so we'll touch base about that. We can chat about that while I'm up there.
Fabulous. Love it.
Great. Thank you.
That's awesome. Great. So lots to look forward to from Richard. We're excited to hear the next topics, but so relevant for everything that we do.
Real quick, Richard.
Yes.
That slide that you showed was like 95 years, X amount. I would like to get that from you, maybe because when we shoot footage for a client and say, okay, we're going to continue using the footage, and we put in our contract, we're going to continue using the footage to market ourselves and whatnot. But what happens is either that company sometimes if they belly up or the people that work for them no longer works for them. And we're still using it for our marketing. We might show behind the scenes. They might come back and say, hey, could you take that down? They don't work here. And I'm like, well, it's not part of your marketing. is part of our marketing since we shot the footage. But that slide you had, I want if I can get that. So I can put
Absolutely.
something
I'll be
up there.
happy to share this with everyone. Stephanie, should I send it to you and share it with the crowd that way? Is that the easier way to do it, or?
We can do that. Is everybody cool with us emailing that out? You guys?
Great.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, we can send an email. Sarah, help me to make sure we send out that email, make sure we're doing that. So that's great. That's a great question because, we do the same thing as far as like being able to use marketing we have in our contract. And we run into that with clients because we want them to put that in their contract so that they can promote the things that they do. And a lot of times, we can't talk about things from a PR standpoint unless we have the client's permission. So
Right.
it's complicated for sure.
Yeah, a
So
lot of that too will be touched on the assignment of IP, which is one of the future topics I said I'll be talking about in the next couple of months.
lovely. I'm so excited. That's great. We're glad to have you, Richard. All right, Sarah, I know we're kind of getting close on time. You mentioned you wanted to do a tip today because you had some stuff about metrics?
And
I
I have
do.
a tip too.
Justin might be ready. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You got it, Justin? Okay.
Well, no, I can't share it, but I can talk about it for sure.
Okay.
Having some security issues, but I can certainly talk about my tip. And my tip is all about some 5 stats that can show long-term health of your marketing program. So we all look at lots of metrics, and I'm here to talk about some things that can really show long-term health. So I kind of break them out when I'm analyzing my own marketing program into leading and lagging. And the leading metrics that lead to results are very important. Email open rates, not that important, but your change in your click-through rate certainly tells you a lot more because change is context. Ad clicks, okay, but conversions, marketing conversions of those ads, more important. But what's missing from those stats? And as marketers, I think we tend to focus a little bit too much when we're talking to the C-suite, or in your case, to a client. You really, we all ought to try to find a way to connect those leading metrics into lagging results. So those high CTR emails, how many MQLs are they creating? Marketing qualified leads. Your high converting LinkedIn ads, are they actually producing pipeline? In our case, we found that they're performing brilliantly for our marketing conversions, but LinkedIn consumers generally aren't converting into pipeline. And you can do with that what you may, continue for brand awareness efforts, but knowing that really helps you make good decisions. And then finally, which of these tactics are actually leading to closed won deals? So,
Hey, Justin, do you
yeah,
want me to share I could share your slide and you
that's
can
all
talk.
right. Yeah, don't worry about it. I can talk through it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was
I
just
can
gonna.
talk through it. But basically, I know a lot of us have heard this before, but it's good to re-mention it. As marketers, we really have to market ourselves, and we really have to market marketing in general to the C-suite and to our clients. And I would encourage agencies to not just report on the immediate metrics that your deliverables are producing, but really try to find a way to connect those to the lagging metrics. And on the C-suite, on the client side, we've got to get away from these more leading metrics and really talk about the bottom line. And frankly, also ought to have courage to cut programs after a while if they aren't producing bottom line. So the 5 stats that I came up with for this that I think really help you determine the long-term health of your marketing program. So number 1, and that is the change in direct traffic sourced MQLs. So if you look at your website, if you're using HubSpot or WordPress or whatever, you can track direct traffic. And what direct traffic is people actually typing your name. And what that indicates to me is the effect of brand awareness in general. And if you can show that your direct traffic is increasing, A, and B, if you tracking your MQLs, your marketing qualified leads, to that direct traffic which a lot of your marketing programs should be able to do, you can show pretty clearly that your brand awareness activities, which sometimes has a bad name with some C-suite, but not the smart ones, but you still have to show it. And direct traffic is one way to do that. If more people are typing your name in the URL, it shows you're doing your job as brand marketers. Another one, the second one, is your change in high intent MQLs over time. So we all can bring in basic MQLs, but the real trick is what is their intent, right? And whatever your intent scoring model is, every company has a different one. But if you can show the change in high intent MQLs for the positive, you're showing that your targeting is working better, your messaging is working better, your creative is working better. But if it's decreasing, that's also a good indicator that it's not working. And frankly, it could also be a canary in the market coal mine that shows that market demand at a macro level, maybe it's shifting. And so I think change in high intent MQLs could be used by the C-suite to make important market decisions if you're adequately tracking it. The third of 5 is the change in pipeline source diversity. So this is a huge one, and it really shows maturity of your marketing program. And if your SQLs had 5 sources before, and 6 months later, 2 quarters later, you now have 11, which I recently discovered we do. What that shows is that your marketing program is maturing. It's bringing in more lead sources. It's bringing in people from different channels. And in my opinion, that is long-term exponential growth. Even if your MQLs are decreasing, it shows long-term health, because as we all know, leads don't go like that. They go like that a lot of the time. So, take a look at your pipeline diversity sources and don't rest on your laurels and try to think of other sources that you could be bringing in. Another one is 100% sales rep outreach on high intent leads. So, your sales reps, if you probably aren't going to want to go after all of your leads. And here's the deal. Every sales rep in the history of mankind think that your leads suck, right? Your leads are always trash to them. However, if you can get them to 100% MQL outreach, and you can monitor this in Salesforce, for example, it can show that, man, maybe your leads aren't trash. And I guarantee you this, if you're getting 100% outreach on hot leads, high intent leads, you are going to bring in more revenue. It's basic logic. So trying to get 100% hot MQL outreach is really, really important. And if you don't have that, you either A, ought to change the quality of your leads, or B, try to find a way to get your reps to do it, which is harder said than done sometimes. And then the last metric that I was thinking of was your overall return on marketing spend for the pipeline that you generated. And you could say closed leads, but at the end of the day, marketing doesn't close sales. That's the sales team. But if you can track the amount of money that you spent overall on your marketing program and track that to the amount of pipeline that you generated, you can show the C-suite, for example, our team, 11.1 times return on pipeline spend, or marketing spend for pipeline generated. And that's a pretty powerful stat. And any CEO ought to look at that and be like, oh yeah, you guys are doing your job, and you're potentially profitable in that. So those are 5 stats that I thought of that you may not be tracking, but I think can really show long-term health.
That's so good, Justin. I would love to even break some of those down and have a deeper conversation about it. I know we're kind of running out of time. Make sure, I think your info is in the chat. So if you guys, have questions and want to follow up with Justin about that stuff, I think that's awesome. And I would also say yesterday, the Small Business Development Center had a presentation. I'm going to put his name in here because I don't have a link to the presentation, but it was Robert Carnes from Green Melon Media. And he was talking about how things have changed in the last year or two and how even the reporting programs like Google are not necessarily telling you where traffic's coming from. And so it's getting harder and harder to track these things. So I think a lot of the stuff that Justin is talking about, being able to have other things to be able to tie these things back to and be able to make those connections, we're going to have to start doing this stuff more and more as there's less and less information to tie things together. So I would say follow Robert as well. And even reach out to him and say, hey, I know you did a small business development center presentation. Do you have any of that information on a blog or something? It's so worth, I can't send you the presentation because it was a paid thing, but he may have like that information and, some other thing too. All right, so we are getting close to 11 o'clock. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Sarah, I know you said you had a tip and then I've got a quick tip. Do you want to do your tip and then I'll jump in and wrap us up?
Sure, absolutely. Mine just goes, I guess I just want to share a little bit about what everyone's talked about, but I mean, the most important thing, we do a lot of metrics tracking with PR and social media. And the most important thing is to actually track it and to keep both your own Excel sheet, in detail. And it's kind of like homework and it's a pain in the butt, but do it every month and stay up with it. And then it's important to come up with an easy template to share with your clients and giving them something every month so they can see that return on investment, because they definitely want to see it, they care about it. And especially as the economy gets more iffy and people are struggling and they're wondering whether those marketing dollars are working for them, or et cetera, having something to show them, yes, you got this much value for the spend that you're spending on marketing and public relations can be really important.
Absolutely. So Sarah and I work together, and so this is something Sarah's going to be familiar with as well. But my name is Stephanie Richards. My company is SowGrow Public Relations, and we do public relations for mostly B2B companies to help them get media exposure. So as I mentioned before, we are the tippy top of the funnel where we're popping up in really the brand awareness part of things, where people are not necessarily even aware of a company. And so we're trying to even introduce a company to a market and to usually new markets that they're not, that the people are not familiar with them yet. So we're playing with something. This is kind of in process. It's not even done. So you guys are kind of getting this like in situ. I'm going to share this with you, what we have done. So this is a spreadsheet that we do. And usually when we work with a client, we'll do research and figure out what media coverage they have and rank that media coverage. So, if they have nothing when you search for them, that's a certain thing. And we're trying to play with even having something like a score of, hey, your media coverage, brand awareness score is this. And we have a way to calculate that. And then what we do is then we take from the point when you start working with us to the point of, the present date, how much coverage have you gotten? So there's that metric, and just in terms of like the sheer number of times you've appeared in the media. And then there's also the metric of how valuable is that coverage. And that's where we feel like it's important to distinguish between, let's say something like you write a news release and the news release just shows up as, just like a copy of the news release on some, usually it's like local news channel websites and things like that. So that's like a certain level of coverage versus something like, let's say you're on the cover of Forbes magazine, right? Not the same thing, like very, very different level of coverage, different value. So what we've looked at is, so what makes this type of media coverage more valuable than another type of media coverage? And so we've come up with some metrics and some ways to measure that. And so this is a client of ours, Peachtree Packaging, an amazing company, which you guys all need to know about them because they do like in-store displays and they'll do graphic packaging. So check them out. But so we've been working with them since 2018. And like I said, this spreadsheet is not even done. But so this is the media coverage that we have for them. And then we talk about, the type of coverage it is, and we rank that. And then we talk about whether it's positive or negative and rank that as well. And so what you come up with at the bottom is you come up with a graph. So they've had a lot of media coverage. This is really good. So this is what we've come up with. And this is only about half of what we have because the other half we have not put the numbers in yet. But it shows you how much media coverage they have, but then it also shows you the quality. So, the ones that have the lower bars are the ones that are more like the news releases. And then the ones that are up to the 10, that's like the premium type of media coverage where somebody's covering your company. Maybe they're writing about you or doing an interview. You have a link back to your website. It's a prestigious publication, that sort of thing. So as far as talking to the C-suite, we like to use this to say, this is the media coverage, this is the amount, but this is also the quality because you want to make sure that, you're not just putting news releases out and just having that be the extent of it. We're trying to get stories covered about them. We're trying to get interviews. A 45-minute podcast interview has a lot of value versus, let's say a mention in a paragraph in a small publication. There's just different values to it in terms of amount of exposure you get, quality of exposure, that sort of thing. So again, this is actually in process. Like I said, this doesn't even have all of the media hits. We've got about half of them done, but
Stephanie,
yes.
the awareness value, is that your metric that you created, or is that a universal metric?
Yeah, so this is what we've created. So we've come up with, and we're not putting this information out there, but we've come up with like what makes media coverage valuable and what is that value. So we have a score from 1 to 10 for that. And then we look at that and we're able to communicate to the CEOs about, and we've even played with coming up with a score, and that's what I'm not quite done with yet. And Sarah knows how complicated this is, and she knows like putting in all these numbers, it's so much. It's so much. But what I would like to do is like, hey, your awareness value was this number before you started working with us, and now your awareness value is this number based on the amount of coverage you have and based on the quality of coverage. So we're trying to figure out like how to communicate that and how to come up with that score. And that's where that's why I said this is a little in process. Yeah.
And
Does
do
that
you have
answer?
any access to their internal like leads type information where you could tie it into that?
It depends on the company.
Yeah.
That's our hardest jump
Yeah.
is to be able to connect those dots. And there are times where we will get people they'll say something like, oh, we heard about you from here, or, we got your information from this article. And then they'll say that to the sales team. But a lot of times it's not always apparent that somebody read articles and saw the information and then the sale came in. A lot of times for our clients in particular, it's a 2-3 year sales cycle for them. So they may be seeing these articles frequently, they may be seeing them on social media, and then it's the dollars come in the door with the sales team. And so we do try to track that as much as we can. But some companies, the sales team is more open than others, and some the sales teams track more than others. So it does depend. I do know we are at 11 o'clock, so I do want to be respectful of everybody's time. So I'm going to go ahead and end there. But thank you so much for your tips today. This has been absolutely amazing. And please come back in April, bring a tip, and sign up. Go ahead and grab that link and sign up now. And if you guys want to do a tip, go ahead and submit those. Thank you for listening to the SowGrow Marketing Council podcast. Want to be part of our next meeting? Visit SowGrowPR.com. That's SowGrowPR.com and click on the Marketing Council tab to sign up for our next event. Until next time, keep growing.